The electricity bills, from the reports I have been going down. But if that is not sufficient enough, the government will take measures to pass the benefits to the consumers, because cost of energy, it's a concern of government to lower the cost of energy to help economic growth. You have asked me whether we have seen improved production in the country, creating more jobs. I will tell you that the answer is yes and the answer is no. We have not seen a lot of expansion in the job market as we would want to see. Why? Because extension of credit to the private sector has been depressed almost throughout the year 2024. And you can see clearly from the data that that extension of credit contracted instead of expanding by 1.4%. The measures that we have taken will definitely allow crowding in of private sector so that private sector can borrow from banks, invest, expand, and create more job opportunities. So we are likely to see the benefits of reduced interest rates in the coming months. Brian Otieno, do we expect a finance bill? Yes. Simply put, it is a constitutional requirement. You know, many Kenyans have been asking why we must always have a finance bill. As a matter of fact, it is provided under Chapter 12 of our Constitution that every year we must prepare a finance bill. What is not a must is to have a finance bill with increased rates of taxation. So no one says that that finance bill must always have increase in our taxes. It can have a decrease, it can remain the same, but we will have to produce a finance bill. However thin, it may even be the size of this, my hand, so long as you have a finance bill to meet the constitutional requirement. So that going forward, and we have started public engagement, you will see. And you asked how we will finance the 4.2 trillion. There is also a misconception in this country that you need a new finance bill all the time to finance the budget. That is not true. Even without a finance bill, we have tax rates that are obtaining. Finance bill only vary the rates, change them, increase, reduce. But we already have a law in place. We have a legal framework for all taxes. So we can use the same tax rates to raise revenue to finance this budget. And by the way, if you look at our projected revenue for this year, the coming year 2025-26, you will see that we are more realistic in our revenue collection. The figure that was provided earlier, especially on ordinary revenue, of 3 trillion and 18 billion, has since been revised downwards to 2 trillion 835 billion. So that shows you that the Treasury is walking the talk. We don't want to just say that we have been over-projecting revenue without taking action. We have taken action. Even in the supplementary budget that is going to Parliament, you will see that we have revised downwards revenue projection to reflect on the reality. Linda Koskea is asking me about the payslip and the tax policies that are being taken or implemented to help cushion Kenyans. Linda, if you are keen enough, when we took the tax laws amendment bill in Parliament, one of the objectives of that tax laws amendment bill was to give some reprieve to salaried Kenyans. And that is why I was very unhappy with people who are distorting facts and inciting Kenyans against that bill, because it was helping cushion Kenyans. If you take, for example, your employment, the contribution to housing levy, contribution to SHA are now allowable for tax purposes. So you don't double tax those amounts. You are saving basically what you were contributing before to those two institutions is saving you at least about 30%. for those who are earning salaries of about 38,000 and above. So we will still take other measures that we think would help Kenyans have more money in their pockets. But already there are steps that we took. Now your pension, if you are retiring, you will take your pension home gross. It will not be taxed. So that to me is positive. Those are steps that we took in December to cushion Kenyans. So contrary to the perception out there that we were bringing taxes that would burden Kenyans, we brought those proposals which were making Kenyans have more money in their pockets. A question from Mburu was largely on IMF, which my peers will respond to. You are doubting whether KRA has been meeting targets. It is true that in the first 6 months, KRA did not meet the targets, more particularly July, August, September, and also we had a problem in November. But in October, KRA met the target. In December, we didn't meet the target, but the targets were way very high. January have shown very positive signs. It is not true that we didn't meet the target by 160, something that was mentioned. The target, we didn't meet target, especially on ordinary. The total revenue target, we missed by 90 billion for the first 6 months. But we hope that this next 6 months we will not miss any target. Zakaria, GDP dropped from 5.2 to 4.6. Now that is growth, not GDP falling. It's simply saying that in 2023, GDP grew by 5.2%, meaning it increased by 5.2. In 2024, it increased with 4.6, which is lower than 5.2. And we have explained, or have explained rather, why that was so. The civil unrest for about 3 months, you don't expect economy to grow when people are all over in the streets. People are not doing businesses. So that contributed to that. And that is simply the reason. Economic planning will respond to you. Banks to give loans. Defaulters. One of the ways of reducing defaulting, there are two, in my view. One, reasonable interest rates charged by banks. The moment banks start lowering interest rates, you reduce the rate of default. Two, the government, which is the single consumer of goods and services, must pay for goods and services supplied to government. So we should not have pending bills. That is why there's a deliberate deliberate steps being taken by government to make sure that we don't accumulate further and even settle the historical pending bills. On the issue of USA and the new president, which is the last one that I'll take, every country acts in their best interests. The US and the government of US will act in what they consider is in their best interests. It is still not very clear the policies and what the US government wants to implement and the cuts. But we are prepared as a government that should the cuts affect some critical services, especially health and agriculture, then we will have to realign our budgets in a way that would help sort out or plug the hole that will be left. It will be difficult. It's not only Kenya which will be affected. US is the world's largest economy. Whatever they do affects all of us. So this is not going to be a Kenya problem. It will be a global problem, but domestically we must be sufficiently prepared and respond accordingly to make sure that we mitigate the possible effects of those decisions and actions. Otherwise, allow me again to invite PS National Treasury to pick up from where I've left.
I think I will just give some statistics, especially for KRA performance, just for your note. In July, we had a target of 234 billion. We collected 199. So we had a deficit of 35 billion. In August, we had a target of 198 billion. We collected 173. So we missed the target by 25 billion. So you can see the months that we had issues, July and August, we lost 60 billion. And September, which is normally a tax man with a higher target of 247 billion, we collected 236 billion, leaving a gap of only 11 billion. Then October, there was a target of 201 billion, and KRA managed to collect 207 billion. That means it overperformed by about 6.7 billion. In November, it missed by 10 billion. In December, it missed by 16.5 billion. And this January, which I referred to when I talked about earlier, our target was to raise, we were to raise, actually, let me not go through all that. We were to raise 209, but we collected 206, missing by 3.5 billion. And this was because of domestic taxes. There was a change in the tax laws that now require that you pay, if you are collecting excise tax, you have given 5 days instead of 24 hours. So because of that, the money that would have been collected in January now has to be collected in February. Otherwise, this month of January, KRA would have met the target. I just wanted to correct that. Then on the issue of Kenya Power, I also want to add to what CS says, that before, when we started the reforms, Kenya Power was in a bad situation. And the aim was to restore medium-term profitability. So by end of 2022, the liquidity gap that Kenya Power had was 74 billion.